in the comments section for Paradise, Z Proxy mentioned that he was watching Evil. So I looked into it. It's on CBS, Paramount, but the first 3 seasons are on Netflix. So I watched them there, and then I acquired the final 4th season and watched that. I consumed the whole show in like a month and a half. By definition, it meets our criteria. Every episode questions not just reality, but it's questioning reality, not in the same way that we normally want it, but it's definitely a question reality show, a question your sanity show, a question what's real. It's more of like a question what's real and what's not. Most of what I could say about this show is generic. And I hate saying generic things, but the reason I enjoy the show, and I'm mentioning it, is I enjoyed the characters, and the basic plot structure is kind of similar to like a Dan Brown concept or a James Redfield, in that it's comparing and contrasting science, religion, skepticism, technology. So it's the whole science versus religion thing, but it's done pretty well. And there's a third part. So there's 3 main characters. One guy is becoming a priest, one is a former psychologist, and another is like a tech physics guy. And so you're getting 3 perspectives, and they're fairly well done. The strange part about the show is there's a lot of subject matter that never gets resolved in the episode, or throughout the 4 seasons, a lot of stuff never gets resolved. One of them is one of the daughters has like this lizard tail, and the show had a series finale, and nothing ever came about it. Not much question reality other than there's tons of like demons and shadow beings and devils and Baphomets and goat people and all kinds of monsters. What's neat is how they incorporated VR headsets, implying what's the evil intent behind VR, behind AI, not so much AI, but behind online, showing how online predators use children's games to prey. And what is, whenever you activate the camera on your phone, especially if, like right now this is filming me, but if you're using like an AR, augmented reality, and you're walking around your house or whatever, it's capturing your house and it's uploading it somewhere, and we don't really know what's being done with all the stuff that's being captured. And even I've kind of let my guard down. Back when all this tech first came out, myself and everybody else we were pretty guarded against it. And then at some point, you can't make it to the bank to deposit a check that day, and you're like, let me try depositing it through this app. And then you do it, and you're like, huh. And then it says, hey, we could keep track of all your accounts for you. Why don't you just put all your bank accounts into a single piece of software? Yeah, that seems real safe. But then, you get all the readouts, and you're like, wow, this is pretty convenient. I've revealed all my passwords and all my accounts to this single application, but it was pretty useful. And it just keeps going from there. Every time you click allow, there was that famous episode of South Park, the human centipede, the centipede. Who knows what we've clicked allow to? I've read a couple of things where I'm like, I don't know if I could click allow for this. This is bananas. So it does a good job on that. There's no, like with Paradise last month, I was able to show you that moment where they stop the show basically and say you're being lied to with the sky being painted. In Evil, there's no real singular moment of like aha-ness. The characters are just really well done. They're great actors. Again, this is like generic stuff to say, but great acting, fun storytelling with no rules. And again, they'll come up with conflicts and stuff that never get resolved ever, even after the show completed, and they don't even go back and reference it. So there's that, which becomes comical. So anyway, good show. I enjoyed it for entertainment, but I felt like I can't put my finger on it, what I gained out of it. I gained a lot of closure. I gained a lot of just insight into like what the tech is doing. Not so much, I already knew what the tech was doing. It reminded me of what the tech is doing. Made me really question, like, take a step back and be like, man, I got to get rid of a lot of these accounts and just dial back a lot of stuff. You got to see, this was a big part too, is just seeing how many organizations have evil elements to it and how widespread and vast evil goes. Whether it's the legal system, the religious system, the law enforcement system, psychology system, basically every institution, evil's invaded it. And and what's interesting too is it was hard to get the writers did a good job to conceal their motive and their intent behind the show, because you're not sure if it's like the elements that could be considered like woke stuff for TV. I was okay with it. Like, they were actually social issues that I thought, yeah, that's fair game. That's yeah. So I was okay with that. They dissed QAnon and they diss Flat Earth and it, whatever. Everybody does that. The people that diss Q, I know they never read it. That's the big thing. Is I started doing this a couple years ago when people would knock the whole thing. I'd be like, so did you ever read any of the Q posts? And I'm like, and I don't mean USA Today or corporate hit pieces. Did you actually look at the actual posts? And it gets real quiet after me being lectured about how I'm falling for some kind of psyop. And I'm like, dude, it's not like I don't believe anything that hard, okay? But you could read the posts and it causes you to think about things. Same with the show Evil. I don't like just flat out believe anything on the show, but it caused my mind to think of things that I wouldn't normally think about. So anyway, I recommend the show, not so much for the question reality aspect, but just for enjoyable cast, enjoyable acting, good videography for the most part. It kind of starts to get repetitive by the third season. And I don't feel like there was a big payoff, but it was a good ride. And like I said, closure came out of it. It made me think of a lot of stuff. And I feel like my insides have been modified. I'm not even swayed in one way that, what actually, in the end, how I've been changed is I'm changed by realizing that I'm not changed. I'm not all the way science. I'm not all the way religion. I'm really not religion at all. I'm spiritual, new age kind of things like that, but not wacko occult type stuff. Not that I take issue with it. I take issue with anything that is hidden intentionally. Now, I get it. Back in the times when the church ruled the world, people had to meet in secrecy, but if it's an evil, or I'm not into evil. Okay, now I watched a show called Evil, but I'm not into evil. Don't like it. In fact, I'm into nice, being nice, being good for goodness sake, being over the top good, almost to irritate people, being so friggin' perfect, almost just because I just do it to counteract people that seem to just intentionally do things just to be bad or just to be evil, just to give in to sin. So I try to balance it out by being a goody two-shoes unapologetically. People get mad at that too. It's crazy. People get mad at you for being good. People get mad at you for having standards. Yeah. So if anything, the show made me even more goody two-shoes. Oh, I almost forgot. There's an ongoing ongoing thing throughout the show of, I don't know if we could say it anymore, but take a look at the screen. You see what she's dumping out there. We're going to call it adrenochrome. Hopefully pacing that out bypasses the filter that prevents us from saying it. But this is an ongoing thing. They convert people into that, and then they inject it to prolong their youth or to improve their skin, or all the same reasons that we heard about in 2020 during the whole Wayfair era, the Ghislaine Arrest era, all that good stuff. Yeah, what you see there, that's the stuff that you used to be able to buy on Alibaba. So if you ever followed that whole thing, it's definitely part of the show and an ongoing thing. So if that, I mean, it's not amusing and it's sick. If it's a real thing, like it's probably the most horrible thing that there is. But if you wanted to see that put into a TV show as an ongoing gag, it's in this. Oh, but yeah, it made me realize that it's all about the balance in the force. It made me think of the Hegelian dialectic. It made me think of actually the second insight of the Celestine prophecy, which is about when Martin Luther, stapled the complaints on the church door to create the Reformation. And it made me think about how every Protestant faction has been factioned, has been splintered into a million parts, just like Linux. Linux is a third party against the Microsoft, Apple OS, and Linux got split into a gazillion different distributions so that it could never effectively become a real competitor to market share. And the Protestant thing got fractured into a gazillion different pieces so that it could never really be a competitor to the Catholic Church. And what Celestine was saying was that once the Reformation happened, people then were anxious because their whole lives they had been dictated what reality is, and now they had a shot to decide and determine it for themselves. And instead of asking the deeper questions about what existence is, they decided to occupy themselves with what Celestine calls the preoccupation. And so they set out to map out the whole world empirically and to completely reject the notion of faith or believing in something that you can't see. So you get this one extreme of religious faith with no evidence, and then you get the opposite of science where it has to be completely evidential to the five senses. And when they do that, though, it's like, hey, Mr. Scientist, I know you're sticking to the scientific method, but you're negating René Descartes, doubting, your five senses are limited. But then at the same time, cheers to the scientists for creating instruments to detect things like the ultraviolet spectrum and infrared and all these other spectrums that we can't perceive with our five senses. But everything is, the right answers are in the synthesis. Kind of like, Anakin Skywalker was supposed to bring balance to the Force. So it's about being partially religious, partially science. Like have both. You can go about things. You can walk and chew bubblegum. To do both isn't like the same as you can't go left and right at the same time. You can do religion and science simultaneous. Or you could take aspects, like for instance, the MAGA movement. It's the best of the Democrat Party without the bad part of the Democrat Party, and the best of the Republican Party without the bad part of the Republican Party. So it's the perfect synthesis. Like right now, we are in the ultimate balance in the Force right now. So we're entering the golden age, the best of times. Dan Brown and James Redfield of the Celestine Prophecy, they were continuously trying to find a way to bridge together science and religion. And I think the Evil Show was also trying to do the same in its own way. Oh, and back to their motives. They show you the good and the bad of the Catholic Church. They show you the reasoning somewhat for the satanic organizations. They show you the pros and cons of empiricism, of professional psychology, psychiatry, and it even demonstrates one person's demon is another person's schizophrenia. And I started to think, I'm like, maybe in order to conceal the demons and all that, maybe that's why psychology was invented, was to get people off the scent, to get people thinking that you're hallucinating when you're actually encountering demons. There's more to the world than what we've been told. And but but a scientific perspective is useful. Like hardcore science people are needed. But at the same time, there's a lot of the paranormal that has not been adequately explained. It may have been explained by skeptics. Science always has an answer, just like religion always has an answer. And that's why I'm not married to either. And that's the other part, is you don't have to be all the way one thing. We're given these false choices that you have either your science or your religion. It's like, dude, why don't you just take the best of science and the best of religion and create a synthesis of it? All right, well, to wrap up, I enjoyed the show. I recommend it. There's no real big payoff. There's no big reveal. It's not dictating anything to you. It's leaving it up to you, the viewer, to figure out, was it real? Was it hallucinations? Was it psychology? Was it fakery? Was it metaphorical? It's up to you. So it is art in that sense. Oh, and the big reveal at the end was to show that the 60 evil sigils that were there were mapped out in the same way that the areas of the brain are mapped out. And that each of the sigils, which represented different evil families or groups, represented a different function of the brain. And these 60 functions were mapped out for use in like these AR headsets and other new technology things to get into your brain so that they can control you through. The old methods of control were to physically control your body. Now they're controlling your psychology or controlling your thoughts. So we've seen it before. There's Transcendence, a couple other movies. Anyway, interesting show. Thanks to Z Proxy for mentioning it in the comments. I saw all 4 seasons in a month and a half. I don't know how. I'm so busy. But I did. I enjoyed it. Recommend it. And I'll see you guys next time.